Thank you very much, Drew. We're really happy to be here, and I know this is a tough slot, last one of the day, and we couldn't come tomorrow, unfortunately, so they slid us in today, so we're really happy to be here, and hopefully we can pass out some good information. So again, I'm Ernie Friend, the director of FLATE. It's a little easier to say FLATE than the whole thing that, that Drew put out there, so we just call it FLATE. Dr. Marilyn Barger created FLATE some 20 years ago as an NSF grant, and the NSF funding, that doesn't last forever. It was going away, and fortunately, the Department of Education put some money in, as well as an organization called Florida Makes. So between the two of them, it helped keep FLATE going to where we are today. So, Mayor?
I don't think that might work.
Well, they said we could use them both anyway.
Yeah, so we'll just pass back and forth and keep everybody guessing who's going to talk when. So a little bit about Florida Make. So Drew mentioned being in ag, and there's an agricultural extension program, right? There's a ag extension. You take all your dying plants to, and hope they'll help you fix them. Yeah. Well, there's a manufacturing extension partnership across the country as well. It's funded through the Department of the Chamber of Commerce at the federal level through NIST, the National Institute for not Science and Technology, Standards and Technology, and under that is the Manufacturing Extension Partnership. So it's parallel to the ag, so many people are familiar with ag, so I try to make that connection, especially many educators are familiar with the ag extension. And their role is pretty much the same. It's to help small and medium manufacturers work on their businesses and grow their businesses. Typically, they've been focused on business practices, making sure they know how to use QuickBooks, Salesforce, all those things, and some bit about technology and innovation, but any of those aspects. And until recently, workforce wasn't a problem, and as workforce has become a problem for a lot of industry sectors, education and workforce has become important to the Extension Partnership. And so that's part of the reason we're now with them and can help them grow their talent pipeline. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you understood there's one of these in every state. There's a manufacturing extension partnership in every state in the country, and they're funded by the federal government, just like the ag folks are. They're just best kept secret.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So, certainly one of the goals that Drew asked us to put out as part of our presentation is how you can connect. So we're going to talk a lot about how to connect with manufacturers, but the steps we use or the ideas we have will work with any industry, right? So just real quick, so there's 4 of us in FLATE. We cover the whole state. Danielle and Teresa are not here with us today, but we're all spread out all over the state, and like I said, we cover the whole state. Gotta go manual. Okay, so what FLATE does is we help drive Florida's world-class manufacturing workforce education and training. So we only focus on education, and we do that through curriculum reform, outreach, and student recruitment and professional development to educators. So with curriculum, somehow Maryland over the last 20 years, and we're the only state that actually does this, she got all the colleges that offer manufacturing, they call them ET, engineering technology programs, on the same page, teaching pretty much the same curriculum. And we meet twice a year. So I was telling Drew, we're going to have them at our next event here in March to talk about this organization and try to let the educators know more about it. But anyway, so we do that. We do a lot of promoting manufacturing education throughout the state, and we have a whole series of professional development, which you guys are invited to participate in as well, and we'll show you how to get there in a few minutes. So these are the schools that we work with. These are all the schools that have engineering technology related programs. But we also work with, these are community and state colleges, but we also work with tech colleges and high schools. Anybody that can help promote manufacturing education. So we also assist manufacturers by, we get them connected with different colleges. And universities, we provide resources for Manufacturing Day. So Manufacturing Day, it really lasts all year, but Manufacturing Day is a way to have the public come and visit different manufacturing facilities and professional development. So different ways that the industry engages, and you look at some of these are some of the ways you can engage as well, right? So, so they can provide some work-based learning opportunities, which Maryland's going to be doing a professional development session coming up really soon. We want them to visit classrooms, participate in educator awards, and so on. So these are some of the ways that the industry can engage. And by the time we get done with this presentation, hopefully you'll understand different ways you can engage with WELL, so you and your students. So these are, one of the ways is, these are called regional manufacturing associations. How many of y'all have ever been to a manufacturing facility? A handful of you? How many of y'all drive by manufacturing facilities every day? I bet all of you do, right? Honestly, today, manufacturing just looks like an office building. It looks like a 3-story office building when you go by. There's not a bunch of smokestacks and none of that. It's a clean environment. It looks like an office building. You don't even know it. So these are the RMAs. They're spread out through Florida. These are all nonprofit organizations. But this would be a great place to go. So if you wanted, for example, if you wanted to maybe get some students you're working with a tour of a manufacturing facility, the RMAs are a great place to start. And in our slide deck, I think our slide deck will be shared, right?
It's in documents, in Whova. In documents is the last document is this PowerPoint.
Okay, so a lot of the links we're going to talk about, you don't need to write them down. You can go to them out of the PowerPoint or the PDF, whatever it's going to be. So anyway, so these are the RMAs. So wherever you're at, there's probably one semi near you. Call them up, and they represent. There's about 23,000 manufacturing companies around the state. They don't represent them all yet, but quite a few, enough to satisfy probably what you're trying to do. All right, so let me just go over real quick. I mentioned the webinar series is one of the things that we do. And if you all would go, do me a favor, if you all would go to FLATE on your phones, go to FLATE.org, FLATE.org.
I'd say if you wanted to get in touch with one of those manufacturing RMAs, you can just call us or email us, anyone on that front page, and we can connect you to the right person in the region that you're in. So if you don't want to do a cold call, we're happy to do that for you, because for us it wouldn't be a cold call.
All right, so while you're there, if you go to events, everybody slide to events, and then events is FLATE webinar series. Everybody with me? So events, FLATE webinar series, and then you'll see a list of all the webinars coming up there. We just had one, and if it's already passed, then you can look at the video. So, I mean, some that may interest you is how to create work-based learning opportunities, maybe. Maryland's
That'll
doing,
be the best one.
yeah, Maryland's doing that one on February 1st. Recruiting strategies, and these are all taught either by or with educators, right? So this is from the educator perspective. Robots for AI, creating videos using classroom projects and student success stories to help recruit. We're also going to be doing one on how to develop ET dual enrollment programs and how to increase student diversity in our ET program. So, hopefully there's something there for everybody. But feel free to sign up while we're talking. That's webinars. Okay. So some of the things that we're doing, I know it might be kind of hard to read, so I'll just read them real quick. We're doing a dual credit web-based mechatronics for high school students. I don't know if you want to talk about that, Marilyn.
It's not necessarily about dual enrollment, but dual enrollment happens to be an undercurrent. So it's an opportunity to learn about doing dual enrollment with high schools in one of these kind of CTE technical programs, a nice way, and some great tools for sharing between the high school and the college that's involved. So that's what it'll be. They're going to build a particular trainer, and the attendees are going to take their trainers home.
Okay. So also, this is the event we're going to have. Drew come speak at. So we actually meet with all the schools around the state that have manufacturing or ET programs. Maryland's organized a robot day at College of Central Florida, Ocala, and we're doing some summer teacher academies. We have they can,
I think we have a flyer yet.
okay, so we'll get a flyer out to Drew and he can get that to you guys if you're interested. Okay, so these are some websites that we have. So there's the FLATE.org you just went to, and from this one you can get to the others. But Made in Florida, and we have a wiki. So there's some great, like if you want to do like an exercise with your students, the wiki has some great tools and some different exercises you can do. I think Maryland's got one, we printed out, if you want to show them that now.
One for just measurement and design. We got this little squeezy that we use for giveaways, and this exercise just has students doing some of the measurements and comparing the sizes to their fingers and their hands, and understanding a three-dimensional view. It's very simple, straightforward. They can do at a booth or a table that we're presenting at. Typically, is where we would do this.
So there's a really cool one in there. There's a really cool one in there that Marilyn and her team created way before I got there, called the Toothpick Factory. So it kind of teaches how manufacturing works in a very simple way. So you can take, a group of 10 or 12 students and kind of walk them through that. So it's kind of fun and it's easy. And everybody's got toothpicks laying around somewhere. Okay, so a couple of things we're going to talk about more in the presentation, but one of the things that we've done and kind of focused on this year is some speed networking events. And certainly if you guys, I'd be happy to include you guys on the upcoming ones. But basically we're doing speed networking for manufacturers and educators, right? So that's the only focus. They last about 2 hours. And the whole idea is for the educators and the industry people to connect professionally, because how many of you all actually go out in the field and try to connect with industry? Yeah, most of you do, right? Because you're trying to find jobs for your, for your students. But, when we do it, we ask industry, hey, are you working, would you like to work with educators? They're like, yeah, I'd love to. I just don't know who to talk to, right? Or what school to go to. And the same with educators. Would you like to work more with industry? We get the same response. Yes, I'd love to. I just don't know who to talk to. So we kind of push that by having the speed networking for educators in industry. We've done a few so far. They've been really successful. But certainly, I know, Drew, if that's something we can set up, maybe help with, for you guys, help connect, at least with the manufacturing side. Okay, so, I know a lot of you probably don't have a great depth about manufacturing, right? But with Marilyn and I just want to ask a few questions. Like, just in your own mind, do you think manufacturing is a big deal in Florida? Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that, because most of the time people are like, no, it's mostly in the Northeast or somewhere else. Manufacturing is huge. There's over 23,000 companies that, and I'm going to show you. So there's about 23,000 manufacturers in Florida, and I'm going to show you a dashboard that we're working on. It's about 90% done. That kind of we'll paint the whole story. But let's go to this website and on Indeed. And if we look, this is a great place to go, because if you're trying to sell manufacturing, the first thing that people want to know, especially parents and students, is how many jobs are there, how much can I make, and what can I do? And this is a great way to start, right? So this is just Indeed. Typed in, I think I just typed in manufacturing in Florida, and this is what comes up. So there's thousands of jobs. So instead of just us up here saying, yeah, there are great jobs and great pay, we can show them, right? So this is just one of the tips that we wanted to put out there to you, and it works with any industry. So if you're working with students, automotive, IT, welding, whatever it is, I mean, we always take them here. I like to take them here first. So it's just not us saying it, it's the reality of what's happening. So that's one of the tips we wanted to throw out there. Okay, so this is the website we just created called Manufacturing Matters. It's a dashboard. And so it's called Manufacturing Matters, FL.org. Like I said, it's about 90% done. Something that, so the whole idea behind this is to really showcase what's out there in manufacturing. So I won't go through the whole thing just because of time, but this top part, it doesn't have them all there, but it's going to be color-coded. Every school in the state, high schools, tech colleges, and community state colleges that have manufacturing-related programs will be listed here. And you can hover over the school and see where they're at. Probably the piece that industry wanted the most was, and you can use this in reverse, is how to connect. So there's a little search thing up here. I'm going to type in welding. So let's say you're a manufacturer and you're looking for some schools that have, you can't find anybody else in your community, and you're looking for schools that have welding programs across the state. Like I said, right now it's just showing high schools and some tech colleges. Eventually it'll show everything. But look at this school here. They have Lake City, 197 students enrolled in their welding programs. That's a lot. So if you're in South Florida and you can't find anybody, industry can now go to this page and say, hey, this school has a lot. Maybe I can go talk to that school and see if there's some excess students that I can bring down to South Florida in that example. So this kind of gives you the overview by county, like how many jobs there are in manufacturing, what the average pay is, cost of living, that kind of thing. Over here gives you like the big numbers. There's about 400,000 jobs in manufacturing in Florida. That's a lot. About close to 23,000 companies, and annually it's about almost 71 billion in regional impact. So a ton of money. Here's a job posting. See, it's all going positive, right? So things are looking good from that standpoint. So and then so on and so on. We don't have enough time to go through all this, but like I said, it'll be in the slides. We sort of have it by who's credentialing, and then the very specifically what jobs are out there. And then, if a student's interested in a certain job, they can get more information on it. So there's a lot more depth to this, but I'm going to stop there just because of time. Any questions so far? And at the very end, we have a lot of good ideas we're going to share with you on how to connect.
So we do have some, so now we're going to talk about specifically some of the resources you could use with students to help them learn about what manufacturing is and, what is it, what kinds of jobs do people do, money they can make, et cetera. And we do have a lot of handout resources that you can download from those websites that Ernie put up earlier that match a lot of what you're going to see on the screen right now. So, okay, let's go. So it's under this Made in Florida umbrella. So part of the one of the things we learned early on was that we needed to brand everybody the same. So we call our programs Made in Florida programs. We call our outreach stuff Made in Florida. We try to package everything under this particular umbrella. So great careers, we've talked about, great features, good lifestyle. So why not you? So that's the questions we ask students to think about. And some of this data doesn't match Ernie's data, but his is real time. And these we have to look up and type in this box every time we do a presentation. So we may be a little bit different from place to place, but lots of jobs, lots of variety of jobs, and lots of locations around the state. So one of the ways we talk about manufacturing and what it is, this is what happens. Somebody has an idea. We all have ideas. We all have great ideas. We have to do a design. We have to make whatever it is we think our idea is. Test, market, and distribute. Get it out there to the public and sell it. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to just invent things or just make something better, whatever. That happens all the time. How often does your phone change with updates, either software or hardware? That kind of idea, always innovating, trying to make something better. Sometimes they make it worse though, right? Yes. So anyway, then down below are some job titles that they might run into, that students might run into, that would be posted for maybe on Indeed or in other places as well. Okay. Next slide. And talking to students, we like to kind of tell them that it's everywhere. Manufacturing is everywhere. So we have some categories. You might see different categories, in some other postings, but just a few to get them thinking about that there are great careers in aviation. We have a lot of that work going on the Space Coast in Florida. Aviation and aeronautics, medical devices and equipment. Florida is probably the second, maybe the third largest producer of medical devices, probably because we all like to retire here. and the older you are, the more of these devices you might need. Electronics and electrical, we have, despite the fact that we're a vacation resort, we have a lot of Department of Defense contractors in Florida sitting in the buildings with small signs behind barbed wire fence that are making really high-tech stuff for the different units of the Defense Department. Food and beverage, we all know about Tropicana and lots of food. We do produce, we're a big agricultural state for some products, so there's a lot of that going on. And where else are we, where's the rest of them? You went too fast. Transportation, machining and product fabrication, that would be a lot of machining, metal devices, metal products, product design and systems integration, really important today with all these machines talking to each other, and your car talking to your phone, and your phone talking to your refrigerator. All of that is part of a system design concept. And of course, leisure and entertainment. So lots of areas, so students can find a job in manufacturing in any of these kind of industry sectors of manufacturing. And so some examples here, we'll kind of go through those. You can see some real life pictures from the icons from the different areas. You can go to the next page. And likewise for this group as well. So these are real companies on these slides, are real companies in Florida that fall into these different categories. Okay, so again, you know, can make a good living at this. Typically you can make this salary, this is the average salary, probably doesn't match Ernie's again, but coming out of even a 2-year college degree program that's focused on a technical area, the welders probably make twice this coming out of a welding program at the tech colleges. But to help students and parents a little bit better, we have this kind of divided into this comes from Career Source, this idea of now, next, and later. So out of high school, kinds of jobs they could get in the pay range. Career Source Florida posts this, this document or this information every 2 years, I believe, updates it. It's on their website. You can go to careersource.org, I think, and find it somewhere. I don't know where the exact link is, but I think it's on the handout that you can go there and update that. Okay. I think they have for other industry sectors as well. So next, you know, after some college, the technician level, and again pay, so some different titles they might see. You might get to out of the 2-year colleges. Okay. And then, you know, 4-year degrees, it's this kind of things. You can see a lot of engineers and scientists in this area. Okay. So again, do you get excited about making things, thinking about how to make things better? I think we all kind of go through that at some point or another. You know, how do we make this screen better? So, for example, it has some issues, right? Some visual issues. So people think about that, and other people go out and come up with ideas on what would be a better screen. And then try to market it, make it, test it, market it, just like that process diagram we looked at earlier. So another approach to what is manufacturing, it just takes stuff, and typically some raw materials or some starting materials now, since we have a lot of synthetics, and processing it somehow, doing some things to it, making some changes, and then coming out with the manufactured product. So very simplistically, it takes stuff and changes it and makes a product. So it's quite conceptually easy, and everything, almost everything that you see in this room, I guess everything you see in this room was manufactured. And somebody had to decide if they got enough light out of that particular bulb, or do they need 4 or 5 in this spread between these two ceiling dividers. I mean, all of that is designed and set up by the engineers and scientists, and then the technicians typically do the installation piece, and then they have helpers that help them do that. So there's a kind of tiered career pathway. Next. Make something, make a lot of them, and make money. That's my favorite part. I'm not there yet, but maybe one of these days we'll get there. So again, back to the innovate, design, fabricate, test, market, distribute. And there's lots of different views of this. It's also now in the education arena, it's coming out as design thinking ideas, a design process idea. You know, engineers have been doing it for 500 years or more. And it's a great way to teach young children to think about what they're doing and why they're doing it, and how to constantly think about improving whatever it is they're doing. They're making just a school project of any kind. We taught this in elementary schools in Pinellas County a number of years ago. So a little bit more on each of those, which I think I've already kind of covered, you know, getting your idea, getting the actual design drawn up, figuring out how much material you need. You know, this brings me to the grocery store, because now every time you buy a box of cereal, there's slightly different size and slightly different weight, right? It's really hard to keep up with the price of 1 ounce of cereal, because they're constantly changing that, trying to make them feel and look the same for the customer. And there's people that do this for a living. They get paid to figure that out. I think it's pretty amazing. So we also like to tell students that they should, you know, get engaged with the industry that they love, what they like. And manufacturing happens to allow you to do that. If you like cars, you can go into automotive, the automotive area, either in design or service, and work. If you like, you know, Disney World rides and all those kinds of things, there's jobs for doing that. All of those things are manufactured and have to, you know, be processed and invented, etc. So lots of opportunities for, you know, finding a niche with something that you really like. Okay, so another resource that we have is showcasing some companies that we've partnered with over the years around the state. So this is a slide deck that's on the Made in Florida website. These are just sample slides about the companies, but they're just enough to be a teaser. They'll have some job titles, what they make. Oh, my finger's just stuck to the screen. what they make. So this is ConMed Linatech is in Pinellas County. They make a lot of medical devices. They make saws for bones. They make the little catheters. They make just an incredible range of medical devices and all of the electronics that go with them. But this just gives you a little idea of what they make and some jobs, and that's like where they are. So just a little flavor of what some manufacturers in Florida look like. And likewise for the rest of these companies from around the state. And next, we're really trying to encourage students to get involved with manufacturing and education and help us fill this workforce and talent pipeline that the industry is really interested in. So we have some, you know, sketch out pathways for students. There's a lot of high schools that have technical programs that support manufacturing. The engineering ones, there's some very strictly manufacturing. There's some that are called robotics and really focus on that. And today, even a lot of the IT is now communication between machines. So all of the AI, machine learning stuff is all very important for manufacturing as well. So you go to high school, you can go to the 2-year colleges or the technical colleges in Florida, onto university, different levels of credentials that parallel those job and wage opportunities that we saw in the previously. And this is our degree program for the 2-year engineering tech degree that Ernie mentioned earlier. The colleges that offer this degree work together. They all work with their partner high schools. Many of them have a dual enrollment program with the high schools. And there's a lot of good opportunity on the details of the degree program that you probably don't want to know about at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. But there are great pathways, even onto a bachelor's degree, that we've been able to put together over the years and just within the state of Florida. So anyway, here they are, all those colleges again that we started with, the names, and hey, there's the website again, and I forget if we put the next slide in, sorry. You want to do this last slide? Well, the website, again, I think we had that earlier. Oh, well, let's talk about, these are some of the handouts we mentioned, and you'll see some of the visuals that you recognize some of them from the slides as well. So these are downloadable files you could get on the on their websites and use them as handouts or as talking points with students when you want to showcase potential. So there's the job journey or the now, next, later. What is just what is manufacturing, the process and the different sectors. And then the one in the middle is how to explore on Florida Shines. So find places where those programs are offered. So it's just a handout on how to find those. Of course, it has a manufacturing example. And so now to close out, I'll let Ernie do this slide because he made it.
Resources, all those last flyers that Marilyn were talking about, you can download and print out yourself as well. So, all right, so let me just get a little feedback. So, is it, like when you work with students, how involved are you in helping them find jobs? Yeah.
We must. We have to as part of our technical college.
Okay, good, good. So how do you go about doing that now?
We have advisory committees. Those folks are, local and regional folks that sit on our particular programs.
Okay.
And they assist us with finding our people jobs. They're very interested.
And that's a good point. That's definitely something I wanted to talk about. I want to get more feedback as well, but how many of you all actually attend the advisory committee for the programs at your college or school? It's a great way, it's a great resource. And if you're not doing it now, if you're able to, so in the state of Florida, every program, high school, technical college, community college, state college, have to have advisory committees, right? So it's a great way if you don't already know somebody in the industry, whatever industry you're looking for. If you've got some students interested in automotive, go visit the automotive advisory committee, IT, manufacturing, whatever it is, healthcare, whatever it is, go there first because you've already got the audience that you want to talk to, right? They're there, they're helping your school, and they will help you and your students connect with some jobs. Anybody else on advisory committees? Okay. Do you know how to find the advisory committee? Like, how would you find it? Okay. So if you don't know how to find it, how many of you are embedded like with a college? Most of you? Okay. So if you're embedded with a college and you're not really familiar with the advisory committee, some colleges actually will post them. Unfortunately, not very many. So let's say you're trying to find, connect with the next advisory committee for automotive. Best thing to do is go to the program manager, email them, call them, go see them. Like I said, the program manager for automotive. Say, hey, my name's Jim, and I want to talk to you about, I want to attend the next advisory committee meeting. And then you can get in. And from that, I think it'll open up a lot of doors for you. Like I mentioned before, I don't want to touch the screen and stick to it. So work with the Regional Manufacturing Association. So like Drew mentioned, our presentation is available to you. So it shows the way the manufacturing associations are. Feel free to email us if you want to, if you want us to help you connect with them. But they have access to hundreds, in this case, manufacturers. Now, keep in mind that we're talking about manufacturing, but the process will work for anybody. Every industry has an association, right? So we work with manufacturing associations, but there's one for IT, healthcare, automotive, it goes on and on and on. I mean, probably in Orlando right now, there's probably hundreds of association meetings, from around the country. Yeah. So we talked about developing, working with a strong advisory committee. So, start attending yours. From a manufacturing perspective, there's events called manufacturing days, and they happen all over the state, really all year round. It's not really just a day; it's really the whole year now. But we're talking manufacturing. Almost every other industry has a day like that, right? right? So once you get with your advisory group, meet some industry people, they can probably help you connect with whatever day that is, and maybe you can get your students in on some of those tours and opportunities. How many of you are involved in the American Teach-In Day? I guess was when industry comes to your classroom. Oh, good. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, I've been a visitor in the classroom.
From the industry side.
Yes.
Oh, good. Can you explain how that works?
And it's just sharing what you do and as a career with other students. It can be anywhere from students K through 12.
Okay.
For the Great American Teach-In.
Okay, and there's a website for it.
Yes, there's a website for it, and a lot of times school districts will have it on their webpage because they're constantly looking for volunteers
Okay.
at all levels.
So if they have one, is it possible for, like, if you're associated with that school, like, could you, now that you're on the other side, right, could you go to that as an educator and listen in?
Listening to somebody else give
Yeah.
a presentation. That I don't know because being volunteers and stuff, and I know for the Great American Teach-In, they don't have the volunteer requirements that they do on a normal basis. So, I don't know, because then
Okay.
you have to find out
Yeah.
what schools and what volunteers come.
Yeah, it might depend on the school and getting access to the school. And the ticket there, the opportunity, the potential opportunity there might be that oftentimes they have like a breakfast session and try to tell all of the industry people how the day's gonna flow and what it's gonna go, and they do some networking during that time. That might be the time to visit if you wanted to try to visit and just learn about Great American Teach-In, but also interact with industry. And whether or not you could pair with industry that were going to a classroom, that would probably be up to the school somehow to decide with all their visitor passes, and et cetera, like that. And I don't believe that it's a common thing, or it is a K-12 event. I don't know that it's done under the Great American Teach-In umbrella in colleges or post-secondary.
Yeah, thanks. So career expos, they happen all the time. I don't know how do you guys hear about those at your institutions where you're at? Okay, so you get that feedback. How many of you attend those? Oh, good, because that's another great way to meet industry, right? No matter what the industry is. We talked a little bit about speed networking. So, if that's something, like I mentioned, we're doing for manufacturing, but I'd be happy, it's not any secret how to do them, but certainly you guys could organize them in your own communities too, right? So you could do some speed networking events for, in your case, would probably be for like industry and students, right? So those are a great way. They don't take a whole lot of time. And it's a good way for someone who maybe is curious about a certain industry to get a lot of information in a short amount of time. Maybe it'll help them sway one way or the other on some certain career path. This one, support for student awards and scholarships. I heard you guys talking about scholarships. That's great. Do you guys do any kind of award program? You do? What do you do?
At the end of each year, I provide dual students a scholarship that are seniors so they can continue into our programs.
Okay, good. Yeah, so FLATE itself, we have an annual awards. We recognize industry and educators. I don't know if you guys do that or not. As part of your grant, like do you? Employee. Okay, good. That's a great way. So that you're doing that but you guys can do it individually. So definitely, if you're working with some employers, they love this. So if you're working with some employers and they're, you guys are working out really well, send something like, it can be anything, make up an award, and don't just give it to that person, but see if you can give it to that person with their supervisor, right? So maybe you can have them come on campus, that person, whoever it is, in industry, and their supervisor, because it's always good for, we all want our bosses to know kind of what we're doing, especially when it's something important like getting an award. So that goes a long way for a couple reasons. One is that person will probably have a lot more buy-in with you if they feel like they're being recognized and appreciated for what they're doing. And it also lets their boss know they're doing it, and probably gives them more flexibility to do it more once the boss is involved. So definitely, if you're able, do some awards. I know, interesting enough, I was really blown away by this, but the high school high-tech event that Drew said that we met at last year, Able Trust has an award where it's actually like a invention competition. And the three finalists for this thing, they were all, kids in the program. So the three final projects were, one was someone created an app, like a Uber app for people with unique abilities. So that was like an app, and these were all real products. Another one, you know how when you go to the candy machine and it gets stuck, and you're just like, you're banging on it and trying to push on it? Well, they actually created a little vibrating box underneath. So if your candy or chips get stuck, instead of you banging on the machine and it falling over on you, you just press another button and this little vibrating box underneath kind of shakes your candy out. And then the third one was a thing that went around your seatbelt. I forgot the name of it, but it was like this
Belt buddy.
Yeah, belt buddy. It was like a cover that goes around your seatbelt. So it says, let's say you've got some kind of issue that you don't want the cops thinking you're ignoring them, so anyway, it kind of says what your issue might be to the cops or the fire department or whoever. So if you're in your car and the cop comes up and maybe you can't hear very well, it'll say that, I can't hear you, but I'm not ignoring you or whatever. So really 3 good ideas, and I think they all have patents on those ideas, and they're going to try to sell them. Yeah, so that's a good idea. All right, tours. Tours, you cannot do enough tours with your students. So, but you got to build up those relationships, right, with the industry. So once you build that up, take them out and get as many tours as you can. The more outreach activities you can do, the better. And once you make those connections, this is all predicated on making those connections, right? In the different ways that we talked about. You guys have a lot of expertise as well. So, not only do you want to educate the industry, you want them to educate, you want to educate them as well as they educate you, right, on different aspects of your students. How are you guys doing on externships? Is that a requirement in your program?
Yeah.
Or some kind of internship? Okay, good. And how's that going? Is it hard to find the employers? Yeah, it is sometimes, right? They have their own requirements. We certainly experiment with different ways to do that. Sometimes, especially I managed IT and manufacturing, and a lot of times no one's going to let a junior IT student come in and start working on someone's network. So what we would do is kind of cut that in half, where maybe instead of them doing the technical stuff on site, which could cause some problems for a lot of employers, maybe they could do that at the school, so they could prove to the employer at your campus in some lab there what their skills are, and then just do the soft skills stuff on site. So if there's some concern about working around machines or maybe some insurance issues, maybe you could kind of cut that in half, do the technical stuff with an employer on campus, and then just have the soft skills on site. There's lots of opportunities. We say teachers. Some of you may be teachers, but really, I don't know if you guys would have the opportunity, but a lot of employers will let you go and spend some time on site. So if you want to learn more about an industry, obviously I don't know what the rules are, with your organization, but certainly a few days on site, in different industries would benefit all of us, right? So take advantage of that if you can. Yeah, this one I kind of already talked about, but sending thank you letters to supervisors of the people that you're working with. Not just the people you're working with, but their supervisors as well. And, this last one, it's not a one-way street, right? Like for all of us, if we are, I think a lot of times we think that industry, their job is to help us, but it's got to work both ways, right? So, when I worked at Florida State College for about 25 years, and I always tried, if someone in industry was working really well with me, I always try to volunteer at their events. Like if they were doing, I don't know, painting houses as a company or whatever, I'd always volunteer to, to work with them. All right, so those are the ideas that we have, but I know in this room there's a lot more. So does anybody have any ideas that seem to work pretty well as it relates to reaching out and working with industry? Is it too late in the afternoon for good ideas? Yeah. All right, how about give me two? Somebody's got to at least have two. All right, here's one. So somebody's got to come up with one more.
One more before we let you lose. So one of the things I learned working with industry, that it was important to really do a lot of listening to what individuals did, not the whole group, but the one-on-one when you're talking to someone from industry. Because they all have their sweet spot of what they really like to engage in with respect to education, for example. So some of them really like to work with students. And you need to know that, and you need to know that that's a person you can go to if you have a student competition that you need judges for, or something else that involves students coming to the classroom and talking to students. Some of them really like to talk about skills and the kind of curriculum stuff, and not so interested on that face-to-face with students. So learn what they like, and when you have opportunities or events or requests, then target particular people, not just the whole group. They really like that. You can offer it to the whole group, but you can later or afterwards target, I'm thinking of an industry board, target particular ones and ask them very specifically. For one, they're kind of honored that you ask them one-on-one to help them with a particular event or student, help me with what can I do for this? This student's really interested in measurement, and every time I would call up Pete Sirac, who's going to be on the webinar next week, because he runs a quality lab, and that's all they do all day long is measure. So those kinds of things, it's important to really pay attention to what they like and what they do. So learn a few of those important factoids about each one, and target them individually when you really need help in a particular area. Make the big ask to everyone that's on your contact list or on your board, but then also have this, this kind of backup plan and make sure that you know those who like to do interact with students or other teachers. So we have some of those that really like to interact with teachers, some that like to work with students, some that like to work on skills, and target them for activities when you need help in those areas.
All right, thank you, Marilyn. Okay, so we need one more before we can go. All right, how about not an idea relating to industry? How about just one idea? Hey!
So, yeah, there you go. Boots on the ground, right? Pounding the pavement, whatever euphemism you want to use. But getting out there, getting in front of the employers, face to face, spending time learning about, their industry, kind of like you would for an interview, right? You wouldn't just walk into an employer's company without having zero knowledge of that company. That's insulting. So know who you're talking to, know what they manufacture, know some of the verbiage of that trade, and then go in and have a genuine conversation with them. Because that does a lot to dispel those preconceived notions of employing adults with a disability. A lot of these employers may not have worked with an adult with a disability before. So going in and really advocating on behalf of our students can break down a lot of those barriers.
Great. What's your name?
Christian.
Christian, great idea. And just a quick follow-up to that is, why it's so important to build professional relationships through all the things we talked about. Because if you send an email to someone you don't know, what's the chance of them responding and giving you what they want? Everybody's busy, right? So I can send 100 emails to people I've never met, and probably just a handful are going to reply back, if any. But if they know me, and I send an email and say, Susie, I've got a bunch of students who are interested in X. Can you help me out? Susie will probably help me out. If I don't know Susie, and I'm just sending an email, it's probably not going to happen, right? So that's why those personal and professional relationships are so important. That's all we have, Drew. I don't know if you had anything to wrap it up, or, okay.